All right, good morning, afternoon, or evening. Another episode of Noob Flights here. And today, now we're going to talk about flight planning. So right now we're looking down at Colorado Springs, I believe. Nope, that's Denver. So we're looking at Denver. And let's say we're going to go from Denver. So let's type that in there since we're looking at it. KDEN. Normally I'd probably be taking off from a municipal airport or smaller. Probably not going to ever really be taking off from Denver. But hey, it's a simulator. We can have fun, all the fun we want. So, hey, how often are we ever going to get to take off in the real world from Denver International? And let's head down to Colorado Springs. You know, I don't know if we're actually going to fly this or not. We don't have to, but this is more about doing flight planning and waypoints. So the default, when you click, you know, enter this, enter that, you have some drop downs here. You can choose which runway that you want to take off from, or you can start in parking, or you could start at a ramp. This being the Denver International Airport, there's a lot. You can start at a gate. We don't want to do that today. We just want to get to it. But that's what you can do. You can pick your arrivals, where you want to go to. Okay, so by default, it sets it as visual flight rules, direct GPS. So a straight shot from Denver down to Colorado Springs. Okay, easy enough for a simple flight plan. All right, let's say we're now practicing VOR to VOR. If you're a noob, VOR is basically a radio station. That's the easiest way to think about these. I mean, that's really all they are. They're radio stations. So what you're doing, these points out here, like that, BRK, it's a radio station. Let me find another one. HGO's out here somewhere. Yeah, it's a radio station. So VOR to VOR, that's what that means. So if we set that, it's probably going to change our... Yeah, so what it did in this case, instead of just a straight shot from the runway, it takes us over to this radio station. Then it's going to take us, let's see, up to this radio station. Then it's going to take us to this radio station. And then it's going to take us to the runway. Okay? So, before GPS, there was VORs. And part of that NDBs, I believe. And so yeah, that's really all they are. Look at this. Look at all this traffic. I believe these are users, not real world traffic. These are other users in the game currently in green. Look at these guys flying in. We're getting all kinds of traffic coming to Denver. It's gonna be crazy. I still haven't seen any. They're still working out a lot of bugs. You know, it's a baby step, but a humongous step for the world of simulators. Okay, let's move on. Instrument flight rules. By clicking, you get low altitude airways or high altitude airways. And that's for these guys out here, usually the big boys, the jets. But anyway, let's click on low altitude airways and watch how our route changes. Okay, so for instrument flight rules, they want you to come out of Denver, come over to this fix point. These triangles are fixes, and they're usually identified by 5 letters. In this case, JEFEL. So fix points aren't really aren't physical places in the real world. They're physical. They're places on a map. Okay, so anytime you see a little triangle, so it wants to take us from this fix, JEFEL, to LUFSE, Then it's going to take us to this radio station, and then we come in for a landing. So if we zoom down closer around the map, you'll start seeing more and more fixes, and you can change your filters to show different fixes and radio stations and all that. So let's look at high altitude airways and how they would have us plot for a short run like this. Alright, so in this case they want us to leave Denver. They want us to come down here to this fix, Signy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, to this fix, ho hum, and straight into the airport. There's no other fix out there. Yeah, and then straight into the airport here. So those are your choices, okay? And when you get into the instrument flight rule stuff, you're probably also going to want to use the instrument landing system. So that's another thing that you need to learn how to set. Okay, unless go down here and open your filters. If you don't see these points here on either sides of the runway indicating a see, that's only 4. Now, something that it's kind of buggy right now. Let me show you this bug. Okay, down at the very bottom of your filters under nav aids, even though it's on, it's not showing me the frequencies up here in this side of the box. For whatever reason, it's kind of broken. But there's a silly little workaround. Just click something else, like click this window up here, your airplanes, your livery, close it, okay? Now look, this box comes back. Why? I don't know. That's a bug report. It should be there all the time. Anytime you click on really anything down here, this window should be open all the time. And it's not. So normally, again, to try to get this information to show up, make sure you come down here to navigation, nav aids. Make sure nav aids is turned on, because if you turn off nav aids, look at that right there. Your ILS marker goes away. There it is. ICOS. Gone. On. Okay? But again, you click on it. No frequency. Come over here, click this, close it. Hey, look, our box is back. And there's the frequency right there. 109.90. Now, if you want to cross-check those with real world frequencies, they should all be accurate. If they're not, send in a bug report. Do I have Skyvector up to show you? I don't. Okay, you can go to a site like skyvector.com. Type just like it sounds, skyvector.com. It's free, or use other services, and you can double check your frequencies against the real world frequencies for setting your ILS. And I'll do an ILS lesson. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, don't worry, we'll get to it. It's wonderful once you do get to it and you can stick an ILS landing. Basically, it's kind of like remote control. You want the computers to guide you all the way down to the runway without having to touch the joystick until the very last minute when you disengage the autopilot and land. Okay, you're going to need to use another tool like Skyvector anyway. You're going to want it, because when you start flying IFR, you have other options here. Not only are you choosing what runway you're taking off from, you're also choosing other things called SIDS and stars. Now, this isn't going to make any darn sense to you unless you understand the standard instrument departures and standard instrument arrival sheets, boilerplates they call them. It's probably a good idea I do show you that. So hang on a second, I'm going to open up Skyvector and show you what I mean. Skit vector? No. Come on, fingers. Work with me here. I'm trying trying to get this video, and I should have planned this a little bit better. And let me open up a window over here. Have you not been seeing what I've been typing this whole time? Oh, okay. You have. Okay, good. Alright, now let me open a window. Skyvector. And bring it to the top so that it shows up on the screen. And slide my little thing here. And now you're looking at the Skyvector website with me. Okay, so for Denver, what I'm talking about here, and if you hover your mouse over these little green dots, there's Denver, there's all the different runways. Okay, hover your mouse there and right click. Now you can get the plan for the airport in general, but what you want to do is hover over that. Okay, so if we're coming in for an ILS landing at a specific runway, this is what you want to look for. You want to, that's called a STAR, standard arrival. All right, so you can come in using ILS. You can come in using RNAV, which is your GPS. Now, here are the departure procedures. Okay, now what these do is these send you out to these different waypoints depending on which direction you're going to be heading. So north, south, east, or west, you know, they have these pre-programmed flights. So let's just open one here. Epke, yeah, Coors sounds nice, right? So here's a departure, Coors. Let me turn this map. Wrong way. Keep turning. Turn, turn, turn. Okay, so this looks like it's a departure out to the east. So it's saying that when we take off from these runways, we are going to go to foams. Again, one of those intersection points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we're going to go to Ipale, Molson, Bolt, Coors, and depart here for Voaxa, and then we transfer over to a different place. All right, so I hope that makes sense. Basically, you have to think about it like highways in the sky, right? You have to have a plan to organize all the traffic that is moving out of the airport and move everybody along the same traffic lines depending on which way they're taking off and where they want to go. So they have devised all of these maps, charts with all of this information. So going back and looking over here, let's find that one for Coors, right? So let's go from Denver, and let's say we are doing Coors. Let's look down here in this list. Well, there's a couple Coors. Coors 6, let's see which one we were on. We were on Coors 6 RNAV. Coors 6... and I guess there's 3 runways we could take off from. Well, let's just pick this one, 16 right, and see what it shows us. So it's taking off here, and it's not showing me the fixes. Oh yeah, there it is. Murphy, so we're obviously a different one. Let's choose another one. Coors 17 left, and see what that gets us. It's kind of the same. Coors 25 right. Still the same. 35 left. Murphy, Basie, Jeanette. So I don't know if these are matching up then exactly, but you get the idea. And I'm probably just picking the wrong one, or not doing it right. 34 left. You do get the point though. If you have to, if they say come in on, if you're planning one and they want you to come in specifically, this is what you'll do. You'll come in and you'll pick one of these. Okay, let's choose another one, not Coors. Connor 7 taking off 35 left. It's not changing. I think it's just still showing us the same stuff. Maybe that's... Okay, that one changed. Okay, so this one is departure to the north. It's going to take us to Ho-Hum, Signy, right, this is Caden. Something about that's wrong. It shouldn't be showing us from Colorado Springs. Unless... how did that happen? Caden departures. Let's say 35 right. Suds. That doesn't give us anything. It was like Sabbath. It's crazy. Is that a line and I'm just not saying? Yeah, it is. That one's shooting us way down here. So again, more stuff you need to learn about SIDS and stars and these highways. Okay, now let's say we're coming in for now our arrival. We want to land at 35. Or we're doing direct. Well, these are the two choices. And we want the ILS 35 right. So some of these maps that you look out here might have a specific entryway, depending again which way you're coming from. So you learn to get all that later. Right now, you just want to, like, yeah, man, I just want to plan a simple flight. It's, you know, the simplest way of all to not mess with any of that stuff is just to go back to direct GPS. And that gives you your shortest route. You can, once you're in the air, engage the autopilot and it will fly it. It pre-programs everything into your autopilot based on what you're doing out here. Now I said I wanted to show you waypoints. The map is being stubborn and you're supposed to just be able to click anywhere on the map, hold for a second and let go, and it'll add a waypoint. It's not doing that in most cases at the moment. It is if you select an actual point that's designated on the map. For example, if I click and hold, I get an add. That'll add that to my route. Click it again, click remove, and you can remove that point. So you're supposed to, again, the way it's supposed to work is you are supposed to be able to click anywhere on the map, and it's supposed to work. So even these little points are supposed to work. These little runways. So we're going to fly over Arrow Bear. And let's say we're going to fly over this guy. And then we want to come over here. So that is how you add, at the moment, custom waypoints. I'm sure people are already putting in a bug report. I'll go ahead and file one myself. Hopefully that hasn't been drowning me out the whole time I just saw the levels. It's really high. Okay, and I think that really kind of covers flight planning for the most part. I'm sorry I really didn't explain SIDS and stars all that well. We can talk about the ILS landing in those frequencies, looking up those frequencies, like I said. Okay, so we are going to come in for a landing in Colorado Springs, like I said. So come down to Colorado Springs. Put your mouse over the green dot for Colorado Springs. Right-click. Come down here. We're going to be coming in for an ILS landing on 35 left or 35 right. Now, on this plate right here, right there, the first thing you see up in the upper left-hand corner where my mouse is circling, it says loc DME. That means the localizer and the distance measuring equipment is on the radio frequency 1091. All right. We zoom in here. This arrow shooting out, and the wide end of the arrow is where you come in from. So we would be entering this way. And this also tells you that the localizer is 1091. So if we go back to Microsoft Flight Simulator, zoom down in to runway 35. Thanks. 35 right. (1091). 1091. So that matches the real world. So you want to make sure you're flying that accurately, or you're in the air and you want to transition to another airport and try an ILS someplace else. It's just using Skyvector is a very quick way, because at the moment, the in-flight map, I don't know of any way to pull up the ILS frequencies in flight. I don't know how to pull up any information in flight for all these little different radio towers. Here's one of those radio towers for butts. See that? Air Force Base. Why they haven't changed the name, I don't know. They're proud of their butts. Their radio tower frequency, and that's what that symbol looks like for the VOR radio towers. That's on 108.8. So you might need a Skyvector. Coming out here again to the main Skyvector map, as we zoom in, you'll find those radio points on the map. There's an NDB. And I said that one right in front of us out here is called BRK. There it is. BRK. There's the Morse code for it. You can listen to that on your radio to make sure you're tuned to the right one. But to tune to it, you're going to dial 112.5. It's just a radio station. No more fancy than that. And you have a radio in your airplane and you dial that in, and you'll get a signal from that radio station, and you can follow it. You can, tune to it and go to it. Here's another one out here for Hugo. Again, identified by that particular kind of marking. The radio frequency, 1121. All right, airspaces. Anything that's got these red boxes over it, if the shading is on the inside, you're not supposed to go on the inside. The thick part of the outer edge is the boundary, and the shaded area is the inside. This is military. It says right here, caution, intensive student training. All right, so that's an airspace. Around all airports, they have airspaces. Here's the Air Force Academy airspace. Here's Butts Airspace. Denver International, a humongous airspace, and you'll notice that it's thick blue lines and the red stuff. So there's a lot of rules about how high you can fly and where you should be. There's a lot of traffic moving around, so you'll have to learn how to read these numbers here: 68, 66, 64, 54. Those are altitudes. 54. So as we come over towards the mountains, and your flight planning over mountains, you're not really supposed to go over 10,000 feet without oxygen. So in some of these smaller planes, right here, 13,300 feet, 14,600 feet, 11,200 feet. So you've got to be really careful when you're plotting, how high can you go? You might have to, like going to Las Vegas, in a simulator, it doesn't matter. I can go as high as I want, and I can fly over the mountains and go straight to Las Vegas. But in the, if you're planning real world, it's not safe. There's no way. You can't hop this. That's 14,000 feet in a little plane without oxygen. So you've got to come down here. Stay where the ground is. There's 7,000 feet. There's 10,000 here. So you might want to skirt down here and plan your route down here. Avoid these mountains. Try to find an opening in here, which there isn't. You can come up through here. But you'll want to make your way down here and then start making your way this way towards Las Vegas. So learning how to read these maps. All of these airports, they have all the information you need about obstructions, tower heights, things that you need to look out for. Notices to airmen. But a lot of the information you need is going to be published regularly on these kind of maps out here. These red zones, see these? Flight hazard areas, and it tells you how, what the effective dates are. From 8:20, 1200 Zulu to 10:20, 0300 Zulu. I'm not sure what SFC to 1600, valid for 60 days. They don't want you flying in that area. Who knows what they could be blowing stuff up. And they could be shooting stuff into the air. They could be doing missile drills. It just says flight hazard. They don't really say. Just be careful. Valid for 11 hours. Flight hazard. Sometimes they tell you. Flight hazard. Flight hazard. So, if you're going to take this stuff seriously, check these maps out and plan accordingly. Let's see what else we have down here that I haven't. Oh, these things show you if you're doing visual flight and you're not doing instrument flight. They'll give you little clues to look for on the map, like radio towers and churches, and let's see if we can find some here. It says that's like a grain elevator, I think, up in Greeley. Grain elevators. Towers. And those towers are at 6,260 feet. What are those little markings down here? I'm not sure. Windmills, or the wind towers. You see all those? There's a wind tower farm in this area. So if you're just, cruising along looking for things to get your bearings, hey, we're passing the wind towers. Good, okay. Here's some more wind towers over here. So neat little features on these maps. Okay, these blue lines that are zigzagging all over the place. Those are from point to point like we were looking at earlier, from fix to fix to fix. These are called Victor Airways. They have a little V on them. Victor 263. When you're programming your flight computers later or programming GPS, sometimes you can enter that. Like I'm coming to Limix, the Limix intersection, and I'm going to head north on V263. And I'm going to follow that straight in up to the Akron radio. And once I am over the Akron radio, I am going to turn to a heading of 276 degrees and follow Victor 220 straight up to this radio tower here, which is Gill. And at Gill, let's say we want to go north. We're going to turn to a heading of 017 degrees, and we're going to go to the Shoup intersection and continue that on to Piety, and that is Victor 207 that we're on. Looks like some, I want to say, highways. Highway 80. Okay, so I hope I did at least a noob's worthy job of explaining the maps and why you should right now until they improve the maps in Microsoft Flight Simulator. How to reference things while you're in flight by looking at things like Skyvector. And hopefully I've explained everything decently enough. There are other guys out there that are going to do a much better job. There are a lot of flight training videos out there right now that explain everything much better than I do. And I can't thank those people enough for helping me, the noob, trying to get up to speed. So, flight planning, visual flight rules, radio to radio, low altitude airwaves, and that's Victors. Those are Victors. Low altitude Victors, high altitude, I think those are Victors too. And your SIDS and stars. So watch videos related to those topics, and you'll have a lot more fun time plotting real world stuff. Another thing that you can do is flight aware. They're, as I understand it, they're linking the flight aware system into Microsoft Flight Simulator. So when you go to your options, and if you're set to real world, let me go back. Real world air traffic. Let's see if we are or not. General data. Live real world air traffic. It is on. Live weather is on. Multiplayer is on. Bing data world graphics on. Photogrammetry. What a word. Okay. So another software is Flight Aware. You can pull up any active flight in the United States and flights that have already taken place, and they will post their flight routes. So they will give you, let's say we were traveling from Utah, now we want to do a big jump, or from anywhere, it doesn't really matter, anywhere to anywhere else. Pick 2 spots and go to Flight Aware, and they will show you the routes, including the SIDS and stars that they're using to get there, the most efficient ones. And then you can come back into Microsoft Flight Simulator and plug in the same information. I know that there's more, but I think that's really all your brain can handle, and that's really all my brain can handle. So I hope you've enjoyed this. If you're a noob and you want to keep learning with me and you like what I'm doing, subscribe. Hey, I would really appreciate it. If you've got comments, leave them. Questions, leave them. I'll do the best that this noob can do to help you and get you going in the right direction. If you have a website, your own videos that you're posting or training, like, hey, noob, you really jacked that up. You really need to watch my video on it. Post your links. Post your links. You're going to help everybody by posting your links, your channels, your information inside the comments. If you want to correct me, noob, you did this wrong. Totally did this wrong. I know. I'll fix it. I'll change. I'll make another video. I'll give you praises and accolades. Is that it? Yeah, I think that's it. All the other videos that I'm doing, I've already recorded all the flight training videos, all 8 of them. Those are in my playlist. You can go to that. I'll link that at the end of the video. Hopefully that covers it all. Again, if there's questions, ask them. Let me go figure out what I want to make as the next video. Kineas for Noob Flights, signing out, captains. Well, that took a long time to do.